Welcome in, everybody. Welcome. Little Mouse 27, hello. Hope you're having a good day. Bessie, yeah. Welcome to membership on the channel. Hello. Nita, howdy ho. Howdy ho, Nita. Good evening, folks. Well, we're going to invite you tonight to sit a spell, enjoy your evening, maybe grab a nice warm cup of chamomile tea. Welcome in to Two from the Loo. That's going to be myself and good old Matt Ankney, Ozark Matt. We got about just about 1 minute left of showtime, ladies and gentlemen. Sit back, relax, and have a good time with us. Hello, St. Louis peeps. Y'all come in now, you hear? Bessie knows Matt. And Bessie likes The Office. I like Dwight Schrute too. Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, live. Cool.
Welcome back, Fun Fam. And if you're brand new to the channel, welcome in to Follow the Bradleys Fun. My name is Ronnie Bradley, but I got a special guest here with me tonight. I hope that wherever you are, you're having a phenomenal day. And I hope this gentleman is having a phenomenal day. We're going to welcome him in to the stage, Mr. Ozark Matt. Coming on in.
Hello, Ron. How are you doing?
Hello, Matt and Kat.
This is Vincent.
What's
You know
Kat's
Vincent. Vinny. Good evening, America, Canada, ships at sea. We have a great show.
Hello, Vinny.
Vinny. Vinny.
Yeah, it's funny because I put my backdrop and the other backdrop is the same. I wonder if I should change the secondary backdrop.
I like the new backdrop. I like it.
Well, but should I change the other one? Let me see. What's the other one? What else do I have back here? We can do that one. That way people don't get confused. And I can just I can put us up big like this. I got all kinds of options here. How's it going, Matt? How you doing?
It's good. It's going great. I have been all over St. Louis.
Where you been?
I've been to Colorado with my girlfriend Angie. We went hiking all over the Rocky Mountains in a wilderness area at high elevation. We saw all kinds of really cool sights. A high elevation lake was really neat. We climbed a couple of summits. We did 25 mountain miles in 4 days and 2 summits over 10,000 feet. And so we were pretty tired.
I can imagine.
And, Colorado is pretty amazing, especially this area at the northern part of Colorado near the Wyoming border. It's really neat. When you get into the wilderness area, it's really, really quiet, except for all the people on the trail. It's kind of funny how busy during the day these places can be. So,
interesting. Well, I know we've got some.
Go ahead.
I think I've got some of those pictures from you in Colorado that we'll share. Let's welcome everybody in. I want to see who all is in the chat over here. Holly Weird Land says, truly a dynamic duo. We are the Batman and Robin of the YouTubes and the trio. And we got Cat Guy with us too. Vinny the cat. And
Vincent
a little mouse.
Hello.
Vincent, be careful,
Vincent
little
Price.
mouse. Ooh,
oh, yeah. Hi.
Vincent Price. Vincent Price, well known, of course, for being the star of Michael Jackson's song Thriller.
Also from St. Louis.
The Hounds of Hell.
He is featured on Thriller. This cat is named after Vincent Price.
I love Vincent Price, man. He was amazing back in the day. Bessie Yay. You know Bessie?
I do know Bessie. Hello, Bessie.
She says hi to you. Nita?
She has a funny little office figurine for her avatar. Heidi Ho.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's Dwight Schrute.
Yeah, it's great. Bobblehead. Dwight Bobblehead. We have cat audience people, I see.
Yeah.
This show is for cat people.
Nita and I met a week or so ago over at Disney World, so we had a good time together over there. And Canadian Family Life Tiffany says hi all the way from the Great White North. My mom is in the house. Hi, Mom. Hello, St. Louis peeps. And Bessie Ye says, I know Matt. I know you. My beautiful wife is in the house. Hola, follow the Bradleys family. Welcome tonight. And also our friends, the Cruise Nuts, are in the house tonight. So that's cool. So my wife says, welcome everybody, and welcome to Hola Cruise Nuts. And then we got Canadian Family Life saying hi again. Bessie Ye. Bessie says specifically she's discounting me completely here, and she just says, hi, Matt.
But Bessie, I'm the co-host. I'm actually not the host of this channel. It's Ron.
Oh, whatever. It's your show tonight. It's your show. That's new comments. I'm trying to see. I'm trying for those people who have come in the morning and saw all the convoluted mess that was going on. I think it might have been because of Google Chrome. After I stopped the show and did my investigating, and I'm like, what is this going on? Because I'm looking at myself now, and I got a pretty smooth feed here from what I can tell.
Looks good.
So I am now using DuckDuckGo browser because I know that that's like what DuckDuckGo is known for is getting rid of all of the fluff, right? So I looked at my what do you call that? Need to hide that thing. I looked at my what is it called? Task Manager. Couldn't think of the name of it. I had to look it up. I looked at my task manager, and my task manager was showing me I had one window open on Google, like one tab, and it showed 8 different processes running from Google Chrome. And I'm like, why are there 8 processes running if there's only one tab open? And I'm like, maybe this is it. So I was coming in like Max Headroom from the 1980s. And it was, and apparently this seems to be working smoothly so far. So I'm very, very excited about that. So excited, in fact, that I think it's time to introduce what we call the celebration. That is celebrating all of you out there in the audience for being here. And of course, if there happen to be thrown down any super chat, super sticker, super things, memberships, anything like that during the show, we also like to celebrate that. I don't know that Matt's seen this because this is the new updated long version of
everything's new. I leave, I come back, and all this new stuff. Let's let her rip, Ron. Let's do this.
Is it too much? Too much? It's a perfect! Wahoo! Oh, this is so nice. Give me a break. I couldn't be more excited. Okay, this anticipation is making me mental. But if they say yes, you can be on the show. I think I would go so crazy.
Celebration time. And for those of you that are members, and I think that's you, Bessie, at least. Let's see who else. Bessie is a member. You can throw down your member emojis because I do see that you are a member of the channel. So if you want to drop down those member emojis, feel free to do so. I got some new ones out there. I don't have Matt as an emoji yet. I do have the Arch. The St. Louis Arch is a member emoji. So I tried to work on a couple different ones, and I ended up liking the one that's just the arch by itself. There's no backdrop to it. So very, very cool. So you said you went to where?
Not that long ago, I drove to Colorado and stayed with my girlfriend, Angie, and she lives near this wilderness. This is Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
Okay.
They also have skiing and ski runs, outdoor activities, hiking trails, mountain biking, cross country skiing, snowshoeing. They have a river, the Yampa River. That's the Yampa River Valley. And up there, you could probably see Wyoming. This is so close to Wyoming. That's me after not that long of a hike on a summit, not a big one. It's called Hans Peak. And Hans Peak is outside of the Mount Zirkel Wilderness area in something called the Route National Forest in Colorado. And it was very sunny that day. It was so sunny that you have to kind of wear sun protection, even though it's warmer. The top 300 feet was a giant talus slope labyrinth of boulders with all these confusing kind of chutes, not really a trail going everywhere. So the final 300 feet, the approach, you had to concentrate. And this was essentially a warm up for something that I like to do. This is one of my favorite things to do. I like to hike. I used to work in a national forest. I have a side business called Missouri Ozark Wilderness Guide, where I take people hiking in the Ozarks. And what I like to do is, as an outdoor photographer, I like to travel our United States and visit somewhat the most rugged, the most wild places that I can get to. And I study them beforehand. So getting this area was really exciting, and climbing this small mountain, Hans Peak, felt like a good accomplishment. It was an amazing view. You can see that lake is called Steamboat Lake State Park. So there's camping, there's a facility down there that's a public land. You see forest out there, that's a national forest. It's a national forest all around me, below me, and then out into the distance to the horizon. The air is incredibly clean. You can just feel how clean the air is, and it's very quiet out there. And at night, if you're out in this area, you see every star in the sky possible.
Oh wow, yeah, that
including
love
Elon Musk's space vehicle. I was with locals, and they said that they were scared by a rocket entering the orbit, and they attribute it to Elon Musk. I've seen this on television. I've never seen this, but these folks that live out here in this part of Colorado, which is really isolated. This is about 3 hours. It's more than 3 hours away from like the Denver metro area. And it's several mountain passes, one this way, one that way, to kind of come up into. And so it does feel neat. And I feel very fortunate that we are Americans, and that when I go out in these lands, I particularly do focus for a moment on how lucky I am to be an American, to live here, to be able to travel and see the country that I'm blessed to have, that we're blessed to have, that we should all take interest in. Not everyone can make it to the top of the mountain.
No,
but the folks that do deserve hey, you did it. And then perhaps others can be inspired by not only what they can do on a personal level, but they can come back and show photos of our land, our United States, that no car can really get up there. I think a truck could get up there. There is a small road, but you yourself, the public, really cannot drive up there. So this is a view that this is one of those things you have to get out of your car, park it, put some water on, some sunglasses, and go, how do I get there? There's maps and there's a little line that shows you the trail. And so I encourage those out there, people out there, hey, I'm thinking about doing that. I wanted to do that. I want that to be my new exercise regimen. I want something like this to be my new hobby. People do this all the time. They pick this up all the time. Or they don't do it for a while, and then they revisit their hiking, their outdoor activity, and it reinvigorates them. I'm in shorts and a thing called gaiters. So I have hiking boots on, and then gaiters are Velcro things that I wrap around my boots and my socks to kind of keep the dust, the dirt, and water off my legs. It's so hot that I have to wear a shirt. I would just be so sunburnt essentially, because at a higher altitude, there's less atmosphere. If there's less atmosphere, you have less protection from ultraviolet rays and what's called exposure. Exposure includes the radiation from the sun. So had a great time. Thank you, Kathleen. They'll be back. I have one sleeping over here, Annabelle.
Where do they go when you travel?
Yeah, the cats stay here. I have a neighbor, Pat. Pat is a retired nurse. She lives across the street right over there. She has many cats. She has a cat door. I can see cats in her front yard. She has a key. Cats, I call her grandma. So we have a house sitter, and that allows me to go. There's Angie. That is 10,000 feet. That's inside the Mount Zirkle Wilderness, and that's a trail leading to a lake behind me. And in front of us, in the background, is a thing called Mount Zirkle. And we met a fellow at the lake just before this picture who at 6:30 had climbed that mountain, came back down, and then came to the lake behind us and then moved on. And this is us. We had reached our destination. Now we're going back to my car. That day was about a 10-mile hike. So this is your United States. This is a wilderness area. It's protected. In a wilderness area, you're not allowed to use motorized vehicles. I don't think you can mountain bike. Oh, this is Lake Gilpin. This is 10,400 feet. And it was a 5-mile hike into this. My car is way down. Our vehicle's way down at a different elevation. If you look straight across the lake, there's a saddle, that low point, that pinchy part. There's a trail. You can't really see it. That goes up like this, switchbacks up it, and then back down it. And there are trails all over. But a dude took off his shirt and his shorts. He got in this lake. He thought he was a stud, Ron. And he was like a college kid, and he's just freezing. He couldn't take it. I was
gonna say, how cold is that water? That's got to be even that high up.
Right on the edge, you can see there's little tiny guys up there. They're basically fly fishing. They're going for trout. When I came up in there, it's super clear. There's certain areas you can camp by this. If you can make this place, you can camp by this. Now, some people are picnicking, some people are fishing, but not very long. They don't linger very long. Up in the mountains, the weather can change. You can be hit by lightning. And so when you get to a lake like this, it's kind of sparse with people. It's not a party atmosphere. They don't linger super long, especially in the middle of the day. So it's a beautiful area.
Well, we're talking about
go ahead.
While we're talking about mountains, there's a thought that popped into my head, and if I say it, then we'll both have it. That is one of the places that we also need to visit in this series eventually is Cahokia Mounds.
Oh, yeah.
My gosh, the history.
Yeah, I live
fascinating.
Yeah, I live a few miles away from Cahokia Mounds. The Mississippi River is a few miles away. And yeah, I should go there. It's a great place.
I just want to congratulate Mr. Fulton Mraz. Girlfriend Caitlin's big 11-year anniversary. Congratulations on that. And now this is the same lake closer up.
This is where Angie and I had lunch.
Oh,
and
wow.
I just kind of stood up from our picnic blanket. I had a backpack. We had a picnic lunch, opened it up, just breathtaking. I just stand up. I don't have to do much. Click. That's our lunch. This is Lake Gilpin. You can see we are so high at this point. There is nothing higher. So this effect, this view, it's almost like a painting. When you look across, you see the reflection of the mountain, the trees in the water. It just looks like a Bob Ross.
I was about to say, I'm like, Bob Ross, he says he would have a do with this.
It has Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say he would probably have to put some fluffy little clouds. We're just going to make some fluffy little clouds here.
No, usually I do like clouds. Usually I do like clouds for reference, but at this point, this really did make a statement. With
it's so clear. I bet that high up, there's no, there's a much fewer insects that you have to worry about as far as like having a picnic.
I don't really remember many insects anywhere. It gets so cold at night, even in the summer. this area is covered in snow up until about July, mid-July.
Wow.
So the window to enter these wilderness areas at high elevation are like weeks. They're 6 weeks. They're a month. Then it gets cold again. The light gets less. You have less time up here to linger. But like, yeah, I mean, Bob Ross, this is I just zoomed in from our picnic spot, and
the reflection off the water is so clear. It's just it's very captivating. I mean, any of these photographs could be like this one. This one is perfect for a painting. I mean, you look at it and you go like, that's a perfect painting. It's hanging on my wall.
And if that's what you want, you know, like if you're an American or Canadian or you live anywhere, you have the means to come to a wilderness area, and you're like, I just want to walk down a trail and just look, and that's it. That's it. You can do that. You can seriously, and you don't have to walk 10, 15, 20 miles. You can. And so this stream coming at us, essentially, you have Mount Zirkle on the left. That stream is essentially probably coming from the drainage of the lake and this whole basin that is essentially sitting in front of these peaks right here. And that water is cold and clear. And we sat by a stream at a lower elevation in the shade. It's a magical place. We saw old cabins that were kind of like wrecked and ruined. And yeah, it was great, Ron. I highly recommend
I feel like, well, no, I mean, having spent, I want to say about 4 years of my life in total, 4.5 years living out west. And I haven't visited out west for such a long time now. And it's been over 20 years since I've been out west. I need to go visit again. We have relatives now in Colorado, so we'll hopefully be out there in Longmont, maybe for Christmas time or something like that. But this makes me, you know, inspires me to definitely want to go back out there and see. Now, this is the exact opposite corner of Colorado. Down in Dove Creek is one of the areas where I've been. I've been to Aspen and Boulder, Colorado City, Denver. But Dove Creek is way down south and more on the southwestern Utah border. And it's so funny because it's beautiful and mountainous, but it also has a very different look than this, because this is a much higher elevation, and Dove Creek has a lot of canyons kind of carved out through it.
Right.
So just both beautiful, different sides of the state, but because they're in different areas, they have totally different but equally gorgeous looks to them.
And good point. I think that Colorado is huge. You bring up the fact that let's take Colorado. It's huge. And to navigate it, not every highway can just go straight to every region. You have to go around entire mountain ranges. So this image. There's certain.
I remembered a certain drive that I had trying to make sure that a 18-wheeler doesn't lose its brakes and fall into you. There's some very steep climbs up the highways there.
My car doesn't do well at 10,000 feet. It freaks out. I can't really. The transmission. You know, you have to get to these places. You have to drive there. You have to get there first. That's kind of part of your journey. Then you get out. Then you have to mentally prepare yourself to what this is you're immersing yourself in a wilderness where if you really wanted to, you could leave that trail that she's on. You could just walk out a mile or two or walk up that mountain, that foothill. You just go anywhere. There's nothing really stopping you from just exploring this place in a way that you rarely get to do. And so when you're out there, perhaps you don't leave the trail like me and Angie, but you have a sense of freedom that when you get home, you just feel so satisfied. So here's a great image. This is a restored barn from 1908. This is what's called the Mad Creek Canyon section of the Mount Zirkle Wilderness. This is just outside Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And this is a historic barn. There's a little placard information signage, and it tells you that they came out here and they restored this, and this was someone's property, and they lived out here. And this is essentially a canyon that comes through this, and you can go down by the stream. And this is only 1.5 miles from your car. So if you're savvy and you know how to drive a car, use a map, look stuff up, can you walk 3 miles? I would think that most people in the audience, actually, with sturdy shoes and some water and some granola or M&Ms, they can definitely walk 3 miles. So you have to say, I can do some of this. And so
speaking of that,
go ahead.
I started last Monday back working out again, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it 6 days, but I did. So for me, it's 6 days, and then 7th day is a rest day. But I have continued so far. Knock on wood, knock on Formica, fingers crossed, whatever. But this would technically have been day 10 that I finished of my workouts today. So, and the next step is just making sure I get back in. I ate an apple today, so I'm getting back. Actually, my dad said it's pretty good. I ate an apple with some peanut butter. I had salmon. My beautiful wife cooked me salmon for dinner.
Nice.
That was fantastic. So
nutrition is important.
We are. I'm trying to get myself back on track. I'm youthing again. I'm youthing.
You're glowing. You're glowing, Ron.
Yeah,
you're glowing. So this is made by hand, and
get to that.
Some guy made that. It's a tribute to a generation of Americans that got up early, and they could make everything by hand.
Yeah,
practically everything. That is now over, and this seeps into your bones. It seeps into your DNA. So to finish off this, go on YouTube. This is YouTube. Type in Colorado wilderness hiking. Go to a nice young man or woman or whoever's channel and dip into it. If they have a nice little vlog or whatever about hiking, and pick up a new hobby. Thank you, Ron.
One of the reasons that I like going to Silver Dollar City so much is the whole park is people crafting by hand. There's a few glass blowers at Disney. If you know where to catch them, they're not always there.
Really?
Silver Dollar City is a whole different story. Silver Dollar City is you go from craft to craft to craft. Everything is being made by hand. They're literally handcrafting fiddles in front of you at Silver Dollar City.
That's right.
Glass blowers and wood carvers, and they're making linens. And oh my gosh, you want to talk candles? About food? Oh, the candles! You make your own candle.
You make your own candle.
I love that. Though there's the blacksmith, but I was going to say, and you know this, there's the smell of the real kettle corn in this giant kettle that they're stirring in front of you. And if you like pork rinds, and I love pork rinds. These guys make fresh pork rinds right in front of you, and they'll hand you a fresh one. I mean, I'm telling you, Silver Dollar City is it is a place out of time that is just incredibly well themed. But I will tell I have to say this: if you work at Silver Dollar City, the employees are called citizens there. Some of them get a little bit too much into it, and they take that citizenship home with them. When I worked there are some people that literally believe they lived in the 1890s working there. It just gets to them, and I'm not kidding.
Go to Williamsburg, Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
Forge, Tennessee, and you'll see the same thing. But no, like this area and the Ozarks, Missouri, Tennessee, North Carolina, they have the same heritage. And when it comes to settling this type of land,
and when it comes to hand craftsmanship, this was a long time ago, 2004. At that point in time, I was working in Branson shows, and I was getting a house built for myself. I designed it myself. I started the design on a piece of notebook paper backstage at the Mansion Theater when I was in Joseph in 2003. And I'm like, just kind of sketch something out. And that sketch eventually became a blueprint that I did on my computer. And then we took the blueprints to a real architect who made sure that the blueprints were correct. And then we gave those blueprints to the Amish. And that house was framed by hand by a gentleman and his two 14-year-old twin sons. I watched them work on it. It was incredible.
Wow.
3 guys, 3 gentlemen handcrafted the framing of that entire house, outside walls, inside walls, roof, everything. It was amazing to watch those gentlemen work.
Right. Who cares about 3D printing? I don't care. Oh, 3D printing house. I'd rather watch 3 guys, an old guy and two teenage sons themselves, but whatever.
It was crazy. And that town, the Amish town, it's like 40 minutes from Springfield area, Springfield, Missouri.
Oh yeah.
My gosh, you want the best real jams and jellies and honey butter, apple butter, pies.
Yo, Amish jams and pies, breads, anything like that comes out of the kitchen is amazing.
Yeah. Now,
moving on, I guess.
Moving on to from Colorado back to Missouri, right. And
Missourians do like Colorado, they do. But let's go back. Let's come back home.
So this is Laumier Sculpture Park, and So I will let you introduce this. Now, I love Laumier Sculpture Park. It is, I have some very fond memories of some time that I spent there when I lived in St. Louis, but you might have to explain what this is.
Right. This is a sculpture. It's a work of art. It's a site-specific sculpture, which means it was intentionally designed and installed at this location to stay in this park. This park is in St. Louis County, in a municipality called Sunset Hills. And Laumier Sculpture Park is a St. Louis County park. It's 90 plus acres. It's large. This is made by a Russian artist. It was made and installed, I think, in the late 70s. It's called The Way. And so if you see, this is a side view of The Way. And it's an iconic symbol of the area. There are not many sculpture parks. And this is I think this is the shot that the artist intends for you to see. As you walk into this giant field, you park your car, you're at Laumier Sculpture Park. You can see my girlfriend Angie standing there. For scale, this thing is pretty huge. And that is what it's intended to be. It's about size and scale, probably for you to reflect on your own humanity, your own size, or how big or small you are in the world, and perhaps just with form and color, kind of stimulate your mind. So The Way is a lot of fun. It's the largest sculpture in Laumier Sculpture Park. Laumier is a last name. The Laumier family, Henry Laumier, I believe, used to own this property. And when they passed away, they left the estate to St. Louis County, and his land was developed into a park. But they had a new idea, a radical idea at that time, to just not have ball fields or football fields or picnic tables everywhere like every other park, but have a sculpture park. We kind of jumped Laumier. So that there's Laumier, and as the day progresses, you see the shadows kind of move 360. This thing's almost like a sundial. It has its moods. When the light's out, it's brighter, it's more bright, it's red. And in the winter, it's kind of more subdued. And so it's something that local St. Louisans recognize pretty instantly, or even Missourians. And it's something that they appreciate and revisit. So that's Laumier. We kind of had more Laumier photos, but we hit the jewel box, but we can roll with it.
I wanted to see.
There are many sculptures in Laumier Sculpture Park, and there's trails that weave you around. And there's just so many different ones. There's sculptures that weren't intended for the park, and there's sculptures that were made entirely for the park, where the artists themselves, sometimes from New York, sometimes from California, that sculpturist, that artist will travel to Laumier Sculpture Park, work with a team of people to install their sculpture. If it comes in pieces, they assemble it. If they have to construct it on site, they make it. This is an excellent example of a smaller sculpture that kind of blends in. This one's about nature, and it's a little house, and it invites you inside. There's two entrances, one on either side. It allows the light to come in. There's a chimney effect at the top. And so this sculpture is a good representation of kind of like your average sculpture that you find at Laumier as you explore these paths and these trails on a nice day in the woods, as we did on this nice day. And this has been there my whole life. This is an older sculpture, even though it's wood, it's been maintained through the weather. And we have all kinds of weather. I took this photo to show the audience that even visually impaired folks can come to Laumier and they can see the sculpture with the aid of what's called a maquette. Maquette is a French word, and it itself is a model of the actual sculpture down to a certain smaller size where visually impaired folks can actually see it with their fingers. And then there's a braille section for every plaque that has the information. Really cool. Artist. This was made by Jean Ferreira that I see on the plaque down there. And it's called Spirit House. And so in the shade and the dappled sunlight, it's really a cool effect. I think that the nature surrounding these sculptures plays a really important role, not just the sculpture, the time of day, the season, the mood of the light. This is an area. Henry Laumier was a wealthy man, so he wanted a pool. So he chose a section of the forest. He cut down some trees where there's a kind of a slope. He poured concrete. I'm thinking this is like 1900s, 1910s. He had a crew of guys pour some concrete, make a stone dam at the low point, and then this was filled with water. There's a pump, so I only assume that this was eventually filled with fresh water from a pump coming from somewhere, and this was their pool. And so because this is a former property, they didn't really demolish this pool. They turned it into a sculpture itself. So there's a wooden balcony and there's a wooden promenade that you walk around this area. There's wooden kind of faux buildings, if you will, where you can seat. There's benches. This is a really quiet, contemplative area for anyone to spend a moment by themselves or with someone they care about. And I just want to show you how big this pool is. Yeah, that is huge. Essentially, that's where they made that dam. You can see the wooden walkway in the woods. And when I was a kid, there was water in there sometimes, but not anymore. That's kind of like your average. So you're walking around Laumier Sculpture Park in St. Louis County, and you're like, what's a sculpture park? Well, every time you come to a creek, it might be a sculpture itself. So this is it's a bridge, but it invites you to stand on this bridge. And if you look at the reflection on the glass, you see the rocky creek bed below you. And you it's kind of like feels like you're floating and you're in nature. It's another kind of cool, kind of new age, older sculpture. I think these come from a different era where there's a lot more thought to things, and I appreciate.
I'm trying to see if I can zoom into where you can kind of see the reflection there.
Yeah, you'll stand in the middle, you look at the glass, you see you're kind of like floating over the creek, and there's a certain visual effect that this sculpture gives you, a psychological thing. It makes you think. It makes
you see life from a different perspective.
Well, again, that's where is it just a sculpture, or is it the nature and the sculpture interacting? And so that's a great commentary to go with the bridge. And this is the view of like the patio. I'm only assuming that Henry Laumier and his buddies and his friends and relatives, they had a pool house here. The main house is up the hill. The main house is now a gallery. And it's like a mansion, a stone mansion from like the teens or something. It's very pretty. And so that's a stone kind of like gate with a chain, and you see the entire pool out there. Just
On the
another shot.
right, it looks like a lifeguard stand. I mean, I don't know if that's what it was, but it sure looks like it.
Back then, there was no houses. There was nothing around. This was just a secret little bohemian grove of Ozark bigwigs smoking cigars, I guess. And I guess during Prohibition, drinking bathtub gin and drinking as you go through the woods. Okay, Missouri and St. Louis has trees and woods. It's thickly forested. So you go around a bend and there's this mound. We call it the mound. It's a sculpture, and it invites you to walk up and walk around the lip of it. It's just like this grassy bowl that's shady. You can see a woman right there. She walked around and she's descending for scale. You can see her there descending the what we call the bowl. I don't know. I forget the name of it. And so that's a typical Laumier experience that people have. The visitors in this area seemed really happy. It was a nice day. And it's a place that you don't want to miss. Well, we're at Laumier Sculpture Park here in St. Louis County, which is a unique place. There are very few sculpture parks in North America. This one is free. This one, again, Ron, St. Louis Art Museum free, St. Louis History Museum free. We've said this all the time. St. Louis Zoo free. All these places. So you walk kind of into it. If you want to sit there all day, hang out, throw your dog a frisbee, have a picnic with your loved one, go for it. You could go to Laumier.
If you're traveling from anywhere else in the United States and you haven't thought about St. Louis as a possible destination,
right.
Here's the really cool thing about it, as Matt's alluded to, it's a very cost-effective kind of a trip. You can go there. You're going to get a hotel room for maybe $100 a night. You can certainly find less, and you can certainly find more depending on the level of luxury that you want. Yeah. But it's even to go up into the arch while it's not free. It's last I was there, it was always relatively inexpensive. I don't know how much it is now, but
the jewel box was $1. We'll get to that later.
Okay, jewel box is $1. But last time I went to the arch, it was like maybe $6 or $8 a person. It's not
Science Center free. Science Center Planetarium free. Zoo free. We say this all the time. Yeah. I mean, our state
there's also a sports hall of fame in St. Louis. A lot of people forget about it, but the Bowling Hall of Fame is St. Louis.
Like bowling.
My mom, who's in the chat, she was on an episode of Bowling for Dollars, which was filmed back there.
You need to find that and make that a clip. You need to make that a clip for this show.
I don't think anybody has. I mean, that was 1970 something.
Some young teenager in the audience with a keyboard and a mouse and internet connection, I'm sure can find that.
And then also she was on Sally Jesse Raphael when she was getting her.
They can totally find that too.
That for sure. I'm sure is somewhere on the internet. My mom was on TV a lot because of her she had a prominent job with public relations with the Adams Mark Hotel. So at that point in time, she was on TV like every week. Karen Foss.
Oh, yeah.
Karen Foss.
Go into the bowl, Ron. Click us in.
The bowl, that should be. Well, is this the bowl? It's very empty.
That's it. That's the sculpture. That's what you see. It's what you make of it, I guess. But it's a nice picnic area. I mean, right there. This is I think a Swedish artist. This is a site-specific sculpture here at Laumier Sculpture Park, where this evokes a ship. It's supposed to reference a ship, evoke a ship. You're supposed to get the sense that there's the ocean, but land is similar perhaps to an ocean. And it's almost the skeletal remains that's just like...
It's a land ocean.
It's a land ocean. So...
Wait, was that the last one that you took before we get to Jewel Box?
I think so.
Okay.
We had a bunch of photos, and Ron's doing an expert job navigating.
I'm doing my best. I wanted to see because I have to go backwards to get to the first one, but I'll show the first one.
Okay.
So, and there's also, did you? I don't know if I can show this or not. Let me find out if I can show this. There's another one that I found online.
Hi, buddy.
And I'm trying to see if I can. Yes, okay. I'm going to share this. I think you'll get a kick out of it, Matt. You may have seen it that day, but this is also at Laumier Sculpture Park.
Laumier is so big it has 2 entrances. We walked past that. That is a giant eye, like 20 feet high. And again, it's got 2 entrances. It's huge.
That is a big eye.
That's been there for a while. You'll find every kind of, if you have an eccentric teenager in your family that's like bored with mainstream America, just everything, take them to Laumier. If you want to impress a date or you seem to be kind of hip to art and stuff, take them to Laumier. It's free.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
what does that mean, Ron? What does a giant eyeball on a field mean? What does it represent to you?
It represents all the cameras that are probably watching me every time I walk into the Magic Kingdom.
You feel vulnerable. You feel watched, I guess. Perhaps that's the artist's intention.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see what Kit. The Drury Plaza right by the Arch has free breakfast.
Okay.
Free manager's kickback in the evening, which is essentially dinner. Amazing location and wonderful staffed rooms are very reasonably priced. I believe Drury, isn't Drury a St. Louis-based company?
I'm not sure. But every time, and that hotel has a wonderful view of downtown and the Mississippi River. And every time I drive by a Drury Inn in Missouri, Ron, it's also a Pear Tree Inn at the same time. So I just get confused and I drive by. So I'm not sure what a Pear Tree Inn. It'll just be the same hotel, 2 hotels in the same building.
It's probably the half that the Partridge is staying in. Maybe that's for the Partridge family. It's just for the Partridge family, and the Partridge family has to stay in a Pear Tree.
Right. I guess so.
Now we're going to talk about the wedding capital of St. Louis. Maybe, I don't know.
You like flowers? And people in the audience, do you like plants? Do you like palms, ferns, delicate plants from around the world that for $1, it's not free, you can enter this building made in 1936. What you're seeing here is called the Jewel Box, and it is a glass and copper lined greenhouse with a rough stone foundation built in the age of Art Deco. And it's very Art Deco.
So cool, though. Yeah.
And it stands out. The amazing thing about the Jewel Box is it's extremely modern. It's sleek. It's Art Deco. It's set in a natural setting, a park with trees that literally they blend, they go together. The trees enhance this modern building. This modern building enhances the surrounding area. And there's a feedback loop that everyone enjoys being at the Jewel Box. There's some wrought iron. There's some wrought iron up there. And then there's a floral display as you first approach the Jewel Box. There's this impressive floral display on either side of the walkway of every kind of flower you can think of. And then there's a lily pond. So you walk past all the flowers that you're just like freaking out about. And then you stop at this. This is the lily pond in front of the Jewel Box that has amazing water plants and blooming flowers everywhere. And in itself, this lily pond is a work of art. But when you create the Jewel Box greenhouse, and the designer, the architect, the engineer intended to have the water, you can kind of see the Jewel Box reflection in the water. And we just saw that in the mountains. Kind of weird. That's an ironic, kind of spontaneous thought I had. So you're getting this reflection. The The water plants that you see here are expertly placed with precision and complete thought. And the lily pads are in the middle. Are they precise? Are they completely symmetrical? No. I would argue that asymmetry kind of lends itself to the other symmetry going around here. So when people visit the jewel box, they just they take all this in, and they do, whether they articulate it or not, they do appreciate all of what's going on here. It's very beautiful. And when you drive by, you can see this. It's a landmark of Forest Park. We're in Forest Park. Go ahead, Ron. Oh,
I was just going to say, a lot of people do confuse the jewel box, which is its own separate building thing. They confuse it with the Botanical Gardens, which also has a building similar to it, but they're in a very different location. But I know that like people would, even when I was living in St. Louis, people would drive to the jewel box thinking it was Botanical Gardens, or drive to Botanical Gardens thinking they were going to the jewel box. They are this is in Forest Park, very separate location from the Missouri Botanical Gardens, which we also will eventually have to visit as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely go there on this show. And you can see the concrete entrance is reminiscent of the Kiel Opera House downtown. They were built in the 30s. So you get a heavy concrete Art Deco entrance, geometric, linear, and there are 4 floral patterns designs. You can't really see them. This is a lily pad in bloom, and it's just fascinating to kind of stroll along this before you get inside. I just was struck by, you drive past the jewel box all the time, but you really get out and walk right up there. You can't see this from your car.
No,
I mean, the thing about Forest Park,
the colors, and it's all natural, and the colors on those lily pads are just amazing.
It's amazing. They do the staff at Forest Park, particularly the staff that takes care of the jewel box. There's a guy out there, we saw him work. They do a great job. Amazing job. Very dedicated. It's hard work. You're out in the elements. This is another type of lily pad flower that you see as you enter the jewel box here in Forest Park.
And what is interesting to me about this specifically is that there is a fake recreation of this at Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Oh,
so that ties that back into like the whole what else we do on the channel here. But it's funny because this is real. This is natural. Those are what those flowers actually look like. And you go to Disney and you only get the fake version of it. It's really, really nice to get the real version of it and in person, because from day to day you see it change. I always say, people always freak out that I say this. My favorite attraction at all of Walt Disney World is Living with the Land. You're like, why is that your favorite ride, favorite attraction? Because it's changing every single day. I can't go on Living with the Land and have it be the same ride twice, because they're growing real stuff around me, and that's what I love seeing. And that first part, well, after when you go into the where they're growing everything, that first part is, I think one of the reasons I love that is because it reminds me of the jewel box in St. Louis, just a little bit. So
Angie asked me, does this stuff just grow here? I'm gonna say it's hot and humid in St. Louis. This just grows. Yeah. In Florida, it's the same climate year round almost. They probably spend more money on the fake stuff than just growing it.
That's what's so funny, is because they put this fake bayou, fake swamp into a swamp that Walt Disney had wanted to convert into the park. Like now you converted it back, but it's fake, and then people get confused and don't realize that there are some real alligators out there as well, and you got to be careful of that. So
see if we got an inside shot, right? Got an inside shot.
And this is the other side of it.
Yeah, that's the flower beds on either side as you approach the jewel box. Every kind of flower. Then you hit the lily pond and the jewel box. This is all It's $1 to go in there. I didn't really have the dollar in my pocket. We were going to other places too. You get the idea. I think you can still have weddings in there. Maybe, maybe not. The history of the jewel box in this area is this, real quick. In the 19 teens, there were a large grouping of greenhouses in Forest Park. Go back, my brother. Go back. Okay. In the 19 teens, there was a large grouping of greenhouses in Forest Park that people would have a floral show every week. And then in the early 30s, 35,000 St. Louisans showed up to the site that is now the Jewel Box on Easter Sunday, because all of them had the bright idea that for a decade and a half, hey, there's this place with flowers. It's Easter. 35,000 St. Louisans showed up on that day. The people that ran that greenhouse realized they needed to make a bigger public thing. And so the city was dirty. The air was dirty. Factories, coal. St. Louis in 1900s, 1910, 1920 was gross. So they had greenhouses to exhibit how these places could kind of be refuges from pollution. So that's how St. Louisans kind of grew up that era, understanding these places. So to take it to the next level, they built the Jewel Box in the 30s. And then since then, everybody knows the Jewel Box. But that's the story of the Jewel Box. And so let's move on.
I'm very curious about this particular slide that we're moving to.
Oh, we jumped into the Missouri History Museum. That's 1904. You can go back. You can navigate, or we can talk about History Museum. The last place I visited is the History Museum, and it's a remnant of the World's Fair. The World's Fair was held in Forest Park. It was this huge thing from April to October 1904, and they built 1,500 buildings to accommodate this World's Fair. 20 million people.
I think somehow I'm missing the picture of the actual building from the outside.
It's okay. You can just, whatever you can find.
So we'll go. So this is on the inside of the History Museum.
Right. So when you walk in our History Museum, which is free, there's a large room, an exhibit that's dedicated entirely to the 1904 World's Fair. World's Fair were these exhibits back in the industrial age where they showcased every single country's produce, agriculture, culture, what they had to offer. This is a scale model of the 1904 World's Fair fairgrounds, that when you enter this exhibit in the Missouri History Museum, that's free of charge, you walk in this room and you can see every single building to scale. That was the fair in the layout. That was precisely the fair. This is a 360 model that you can walk around. It's huge. You see a person in the background looking at the far end. This thing is many, 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 many pool tables long or whatever. And the fascinating thing is from this view, you can see the Grand Basin and what's called Art Hill, essentially in the middle. If you're a St. Louisan or you know Forest Park, to give you a reference point, you should know Art Hill. And at the bottom is what's called the Grand Basin. At that time, that's called the Cascades. It has giant water fountains flowing. And in the Grand Basin, which is larger than it is today, were huge boats, gondolas, tourists being rowed by guys, people in the water. They would row up to these fountains. And so it's really hard to fathom how huge this thing was. It was 50 cents to get in. And if you wanted a guy to push you around in a bicycle type cart, it was 60 cents for the day. So most folks, even if they had the money, 50 cents was a lot of money to people back in the day for one day admission. And so some people couldn't get in. The people that had the money could only see so much. And it was so amazing that nothing compared to this. There's no television. There's no phone. There's no internet. There's no radio. There's only a newspaper and book. So Ron, you recognize that structure, don't you?
Where? Yeah. This one here.
What is that?
I
What
don't know.
does that look like?
It looks like the jewel box, kind of, but that's not that. It's not.
No. You know that. That's at the zoo. What's at the zoo that looks like
Oh,
that?
that's the birdhouse.
So that's the birdhouse. What you're looking at is what used to be on the zoo. These Greek architecture type colonial buildings, and you've got some mansion looking thing. You have an octagon thing over there. Those were built and then torn down. And the only thing that was saved was that birdhouse,
The aviary.
the aviary, what we know now as the zoo, where the birds are in, where you walk through the bird cage, the birdhouse. That was used as a birdhouse from the very beginning. So that's a small little feature.
I'm trying to find it here on the ground. It's interesting that the model, this layout, you know, and I know you know this, Epcot, the World Showcase, the idea of it was to be a permanent World's Fair, if you will.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It is, in fact, actually very much laid out similar to this same fashion where you have the pavilions of the different countries going around the perimeter. Of course, the lake and the water structure is much bigger in Epcot, but it's very, very similar fashion. But
let's differentiate real quick. The fair is entirely on one side. That little strip that runs down this way and that way is called the Pike. So there's two sections to the fair. Those buildings up there are highly organized, very, very formal presentations of things like how much wheat does Canada make? Now they'll show you, or how much coal, or how much coffee, how many coffees come from Guatemala and all those buildings. It's like being in a museum. It's like, it's kind of stuffy. It's not so much fun. But that place that looks a little different, that lines that area, that's called the Pike. That's like the carnival. That's where all the popcorn, the food, the crazy things to see, to be, to really entertain you. That's where that is. So this is the fair. If you see, you can see the art museum. Go back to the other shot. The one you just came up on. No, that one. So I'm standing basically at the zoo, looking up at Art Hill, and you can see those three peaks of that building at the top of Art Hill. That's our museum. They tore everything else down. Everything else is now torn down, except our art museum at the top of that, where the water flows down. That conical dome-shaped building, the cascade water fountain, and those stair-step cascades, that's all torn down. But you see Art Hill, the museum, where people sled in the winter. But it's hard to imagine, if you know Forest Park, it being so crazily occupied with buildings and people.
Yeah, that's
people
like
they have a thing. So that is looking directly at our art museum, which is behind the cascade. And again, like I saw real photos where that lagoon is full of giant boats, like gondolas in Venice, with dudes like pulling people right up to this thing so they really don't have cameras back then, very few. Yes, we will get to a part about Scott Joplin. We will get to that part about the Cascades. We're going to get there. I'm so excited that an audience member is aware of this now, because that's coming up. So what you're seeing to your right is this famous Ferris wheel that was at the time one of the largest Ferris wheels ever. You can't get a feel of how big this thing is. I think one car held like 80 people. So there's this thing called the Eye in London. Whatever, dude. The Eye in London cannot compare to the 1904 World's Fair Ferris wheel. This thing was so big that when they tore it down, they just like leaned it over and buried it.
Oh, wow.
So there's always been this thing, can they ever do it, whatever, and all this stuff. So that Ferris wheel right now is basically where Washington University college campus is. If you're familiar with Skinker, that's Skinker Boulevard, and Y down in Forsyth area, and Art Hill over there. So
we have a wheel here in Orlando. it was called the Eye. I don't know what it's called now, but it's I think each gondola on our wheel holds up to 12 people, and
No
it's
way.
completely glass. Yeah, it's big.
12.
It's big. It
The
might be
World's
200.
Fair. The World's Fair was a celebration of the Louisiana territory being purchased by Thomas Jefferson from France. That was in 1804. 100 years later, they wanted to celebrate it in St. Louis, and they did as the World's Fair, the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Louisiana Purchase. 40 years after the 1900 World's Fair, it is still impacting us culturally in songs and things like films. And this is a big film. This family lives in St. Louis. It's summer 1904. Judy Garland and her family visit the fair. See you guys. And so throughout this film, they're going to possibly leave St. Louis, and at the end they don't. Spoiler alert. So the
St.
song
Louis.
in St. Louis is a real song. As Kit Kat mentioned, the fair was such a huge deal. They had all these songwriters come in and write songs about the fair, what's going on at the fair, what you can do, your lover, who you might meet. The Girl from Missouri is a song. She came from Missouri. Look it up. A guy from Chicago goes to the fair, meets a girl from Missouri. This is the fact chart. The fact chart of the fair. 19.6 million people attended from April to October. Not that many people live in the United States. They all had to come here by basically train, all of them. And that was Union Station. So the world came into St. Louis to Union Station, and they had to take carriages. And there's a special express train route that went to the fair with a special sign. So 19.6 million people went to the fair. The fair made, with 50-cent tickets, daily admissions, the fair made $5.5 million and 50 cents. The fair was 1,200 acres large, and there's one building technically still remaining. That's the Art Museum. There were 1,500 buildings, 1,576 buildings at the fair. There were two statues that became symbols of their city. One is the St. Louis IX, Crusader King of France, on his horse in front of the Art Museum in St. Louis. Everybody knows that's the symbol of St. Louis. Crusader King.
Yeah.
The other statue is a statue of Vulcan, which celebrates, at the time, Alabama had an exhibit at the fair, and in front of the Alabama exhibit house was this 60-foot tall statue of a Roman god Vulcan. So if you're familiar with Birmingham, Alabama, that Vulcan statue is in downtown Birmingham. So all these things are in this exhibit. It's mind-blowing. That's the American flag at the time of the 1904 World's Fair. I just took that as a reference. I think we all during our time see our flag. That was the 1904 World's Fair, not 50 states yet. No Alaska, no Hawaii.
Interesting.
And so the Louisiana territory buying $2 million was given to Napoleon. Napoleon needed money in 1804. His wars were expensive, and he sold it to Thomas Jefferson. That is a dedication parade coming down Lindell into Forest Park in 1903 in St. Louis. The fair was delayed. The fair was so large and cost so much money. It was supposed to be in 1903. It was 1904. So what they did is they had a dedication parade. They had people come. That is a military marching parade. All of St. Louis showed up, and it was a big deal. And a woman said it was the best parade she'd ever seen, which I believe her. That is a menu. Go ahead. It's cool. There's all kinds of places to eat. There's even a hotel inside the World's Fair. You could stay at a hotel inside the World's Fair. It was really expensive, though. There was multiple different, just like you're at Walt Disney World, Epcot. Where can I eat? I want a hot dog. I want a steak. This is an Irish restaurant. kind of bringing you Ireland to the fair. And I took a shot of their menu. It's a great menu. There's a ton of stuff on it. And Ron has a photo of just like the prices and what's on it. You may or may not have it.
What'd I do? Well, hold on. Let me get that back.
Or zoom in. Oh, there you go.
Okay, this is.
Can you zoom
I'm
in?
trying to zoom and see.
Sandwiches and desserts. Go right in there.
I
A
can see
ham
the,
sandwich is 10 cents. I'll spoil it. A sandwich is like 10 cents. And this is a nice sit down with a waiter.
There it is. Yeah, 10 cents.
Place. A chicken sandwich is 20 cents.
Imported Swiss
desserts.
cheese sandwich, 20 cents.
Teas, coffees. The entire thing on the right is a wine list. The whole page, wine list.
Yeah.
Do that.
Now, also, if I remember correctly, my history, hopefully I'm right, was it 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, the first huge public display of the electric light bulb, not the single light bulb, but like
Right. Teddy
the entire
Roosevelt.
thing was lit up with electric lights.
Teddy Roosevelt came here as a symbol of Western expansion and a huge American, former president Teddy Roosevelt. He dedicated the fair and he turned on the lights. And when you came to the fair, it was lit up by electric lights. Most people had never seen that or anything like that. If they'd seen an electric light, they had never seen it on that scale. We should skip ahead. If you have those photos of the sheet music, let's do that now for Big Cat.
Let me see if I can find.
If you do have that. So in this place, to finish up all of this, there they are. Start at the World's Fair, ragtime in the World's Fair. So go back just one. There you go.
Aha.
Kick. So, okay, ragtime's huge. The John Lennon, the Kurt Cobain of ragtime is a guy called Scott Joplin. He's from St. Louis. The fairgoers are really control freaks. So the weird thing is about this era is they decide, as you see this thing, they decide they don't want ragtime at the fair. They don't want ragtime in the fair. It might compete with cultural types of music or whatever. Who knows? Yodeling. The yodelers might be upset at the Swedish pavilion that everyone's listening to ragtime and jamming out and having a huge concert. No one's listening to the yodelers. Ragtime's banned. You can see it on the Pike. You can go to ragtime places around the fair. This references there's a neighborhood in St. Louis in 1904 called Chestnut Valley that if you are a ragtime freak, an aficionado, you hang out there all the time. And you go from saloon to saloon, you listen to all these piano players play this fast, upbeat thing called ragtime. So because it was banned in the park, they would make a compromise. Artists and musicians could write songs about the fair and publish them as sheet music. And when you went in the fair, you can't hear ragtime, ironically, but you can purchase sheet music that you take home that has lyrics and music all about the fair. So let's just like bust through some of these sheet musics because the artwork on the sheet music is amazing. It makes me want to collect this stuff. Here's a song. This is the official march. There was marches. There was 2 steps, 1 steps, ragtime songs. This is called The Deed of the Pen. It references, she's holding up a map. She's dressed in fleur-de-lis motif. That's all about France. She has a map of Louisiana. I listen to this song. It's a march. It's a marching band thing. And you could buy this at the fair. Let's go to another one that just kind of shows you how cool it is. Up and Down the Pike shows you how a lady would buy admission to the fair, pay 60 cents for a porter to put her on this wheelchair thing with a brake that he kind of pushes you around the fair all day. So that song is about, fairgoers could rent a chair and have a guide push them anywhere on the fairgrounds they would like to go. There you go. She Was from Missouri is about a guy from Chicago hooking up with a local girl. And finding out that that a sweet St. Louis dimple means a barrel full of fun. That's a lyric. He had a good time. He had a good time. The Ivory City Waltz. Here's a waltz. It's about the Cascades, the area near the art museum. And so the fairground was ringed by enormous white palaces, giving it the nickname the Ivory City. And at the center was the Cascades. The St. Louis Tickle is known for using, number one, the St. Louis Tickle. Not everybody could get into the fair. Not everybody had that 50 cents. So in the background, you see this guy kind of peeking through. He's one of the left out folks. But the thing about the St. Louis Tickle is there's a notorious lyric in the second verse called Funky Butt that was considered highly offensive when sung on the street, but popular and picked up by Arlo Guthrie later and other artists. So the fair was a crazy place with, let's go to the next one. This is a Scott Joplin. I believe this is the official Scott Joplin song about the fair called The Cascades. It's not a waltz or a march. It's a rag, and it's really good. And so you can search for the Cascades rag by Scott Joplin, listen to it. I think he has the spirit of the fair, being a St. Louisan. But the song that lasts and 40 years later becomes the Judy Garland movie that everyone knows is this song, which is the song that she sings. So the cool thing about Meet Me in St. Louis is that wasn't just some song they made up in the studio in the 40s. That was a song written by the New York City songwriting team of lyricists, Andrew B. Sterling and composer Carrie Mills. The song comes to define the 1904 World's Fair. Most of the song fame comes decades later, but plenty of people can recite the main chorus, but the song has 6 verses that are lyrically different. So if you look up the lyrics of Meet Me in St. Louis, it paints a broad picture of what it's like to be at the 1904 World's Fair. And so that's about it for our coverage of the fair, the History Museum, and all that.
The lyric specifically about the electric lights being there. Don't tell me the lights are shining any place but there is a major lyric of that song. Meet me in St. Louis. Meet me
this
in the
iconic. That's
don't
right.
tell me the lights are shining any place but there, because they wanted to emphasize, it was almost marketing, if you will, that you're going to see something you've never seen before. You're going to see, because the other lights in the country were still kerosene,
Oh yeah, gaslight. Sure. Yeah, most of St. Louis was lit by gaslight at the time, which is a pale green, very weak flame. And the fair was open at night all day and through the night, some of it. And so people were astonished at night by the brand new electric lights. Amazing. And that's the spirit of St. Louis. That plane flew from New York to Paris in one trip by Charles Lindbergh, and it does not have a front windshield. You can't see out the front of it. You have to stick your head out the side window. And Jimmy Stewart plays Charles Lindbergh in a movie about this plane. So there's a Judy Garland movie we talked about tonight. There's also a Jimmy Stewart movie where it's a really good movie about very, very difficult.
A fly saves his life. I'll never forget.
Yeah.
What are you doing there? Oh my gosh! Where am I? I'm over the ocean. I don't know where I am.
Right. We need a clip of Jimmy Stewart flying the Spirit of St. Louis at some point. We need that.
It's a good. That's a good movie. So Lucky Lindy, a well-known painting. this is up in downtown for many years, called Lindy Squared, and it was Charles Lindbergh, huge 100, 200 foot tall painting where if you get up close to it, it was all pixelated. It was all painted, hand painted, but like each square was a solid color. But when you stepped away from it, it actually pixelated him into a picture that before computer pixels, mind you, this was all done by hand. It's very interesting. It's taken down now, but that particular, what's that?
We can find a photo of that. You can find it.
Probably find one.
Well, not right now, but later. You should probably find it.
But anyhow, so that particular picture was an art project of mine. I think 6th grade, and it was interesting. So I took it, cut it in half, and half of the drawing. I wish I still had this artwork that I did when I was young, but half of the drawing was a pencil portrait of Charles Lindbergh. The other half was all neon paints. It was still his face, but it was like a neon paint. So it was a really cool piece of my own artwork that I really enjoyed having around, enjoyed doing. But I don't know what happened to it. I miss doing artwork.
Gaslight Square.
Went to Gaslight Square and watched Phyllis Diller perform in 1966.
We'll have to do a show about Gaslight Square, a famous little entertainment. If you're of a certain generation of a certain age, you know Gaslight Square. And boy, it didn't last very long. My parents went there, and we saw comedians and live entertainment. This is near the Central West End.
During the VP Fair one year, I got to watch Bill Cosby perform.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was there. We were there. Yeah,
we were there. I didn't see you.
We were there. I was there with my family. We saw Bill Cosby too that year.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was very.
He sat down. Remember, he was sitting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's how he
sat there in a chair.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he sat in a cell years later for many years. Oh man,
the fireworks is the best.
Oh my gosh, a VP Fair fireworks can never.
Ron, I think there's this place. I have a friend in Texas that eats Emo's Pizza. There is like this warehouse that they store every local regional thing that if you don't live in your area, you can't get your favorite Philly cheesesteak, your Emo's Pizza, your favorite whatever. If you live in a different area, you can sign up for a service that they'll literally kind of throw it together and deliver it to you.
Oh, I've had Emo's Pizza delivered here in Florida. Stack of 8 or stack of 12. You have to buy them in bulk.
You have to buy them in bulk. Frozen.
Yeah, frozen. They come in frozen. They come with you have to take the dry out. That's like the first thing you do is they say, make sure you're careful when you remove the dry ice with the towel.
Oh yeah, with the towel.
Yeah, obviously you don't want to touch the dry ice. But I ordered those pizzas one time and it's just not the same. Yeah. It's not the same as getting fresh Emo's.
Really?
Oh, Emo's is so good. The closest, what's actually better than those frozen Emo's that I've had is in St. Louis from the grocery stores, if you can still get it, was Mama Lucia's. Lucia's had a very, very similar taste to Emo's, but it was at home. And those were actually a better version because the Emo's pizzas that came here, when I get Emo's pizza from Emo's, I get like the 20-inch, the big, wide, huge thing. A lot of squares. These are like the little 12-inch guys, and I don't know. Right. It's just not the same. I like to cut up a big pizza when I get it. But that was good. We covered Laumier Sculpture Park, the Jewel Box, and the History Museum in one show, and some Colorado stuff. So amazing stuff. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming in. Thanks, Matt, for being here. We will do these shows periodically. I don't think we're set to once a week, but periodically we'll bring them to you every couple weeks or so, depending on our schedules, what all we have going on. But it's a lot of fun because I, being from St. Louis but now living in Florida, like to highlight St. Louis and the Midwest and the Ozarks because of all of the unique things that you can do there. Especially, speaking of unique, what tell me about your your Halloween decoration that you have behind you that's going off, flashing. It's flashing behind me right now.
So I think it was yesterday, Angie and I stopped by Walgreens. You all know Walgreens. This was in Crestwood, Missouri, in St. Louis County, and she decided to surprise me with a ceramic mummy jack-o'-lantern that has a light. And I can introduce my latest Halloween decoration gift that I got. I'm very lucky to have this new piece here. It's ceramic and it's festive. Halloween's a great time. I have this out. It's Haunted Columbia, Missouri. I need to dip into this. It should be a great read. But you know what? It's been so much fun to be with everybody tonight, talk about St. Louis, hang out with you, Ron. I can't wait to the next time I have time.
Yes. My little Halloween music I put on in the background.
Like it.
I just saw Beetlejuice with my son, so that was fun.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I need to go over my review.
You see my candles? I'm kind of getting my Halloween. I got candles.
Ooh, wait. There we go.
They're fake. They're electronic candles.
Nice. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Ozark Matt.
The stream.
And, yes,
subscribe.
Like, subscribe, share.
Make a comment. Did you like it? What did you find interesting? Talk to each other. Be a community.
Yeah, and if you're
watching
the replay, make sure that you leave a comment below before
you
knock out.
We talked about so much. I mean, there's a million comments that you just go for it. Go down a road.
And if I find it, I'll play this. Until next time, guys, thank you so much. We will see you real soon. Bye, everybody. Ciao.